Awesome. And then go ahead and go back to that presentation.
Yeah. Which is this?
Perfect. And we can. So the only thing you might want to do at some point is if people join and don't unmute, you could just lower the volume on here. Or I think I can lower the volume this way too.
Okay, you will be here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, it should be recording. I'm going to join that Hangout too.
Yeah. Make sure you see it right. Viewers.
Cool.
Okay, let's see the time check. 4:03.
If you don't mind, really quick, just try talking for a second. I want to make sure I hear you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. We'll give a couple of minutes to gather a few more people, and then we'll start. Yeah. Yeah. So looks like.
Great. Sounds great to hear.
Yeah.
And it sounds good on the stream, so that's
okay.
Perfect.
Sure.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm gonna leave you to it.
Yeah.
But feel free to ping me when it's done. You can just end the hangout. But in the lower right corner where there's these little addresses, you can say stop it.
Stop recording
once it's done.
Yeah.
When that happens, it's going to send you, me, and Heidi all a link, like sometime later today.
Yeah.
To finish recording, and then I'll post it online.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Work around.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So maybe we start now as people keep joining. So hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm Ashik. Today's Tech Talk, I wanted to talk about the software development lifecycle pieces that we do in market engineering. So while I was thinking of presenting it for a long time, I was thinking, yeah, software development lifecycle is a big thing. What do we want to focus on? So in this Tech Talk, I started it with focusing on the user story, but please feel free to stop me anytime during the presentation. Let's make it conversational, and I can answer you the questions during the presentation, not at the end of the presentation. We'll also get time to ask questions at the end of the presentation, but let's make it more interactive, and you can stop me at any slide or at any moment, okay? So with that in mind, yeah, let's just start. So what is software development lifecycle, or SDLC? So they basically, of course, we are an engineering company. We're a fintech company. We all know about it, so I'm not going to explain too much. It's just a brief summary is that it's the process of actually identifying the tasks, sequencing the tasks so that we can develop our systems in a predictable manner. To do that, there are many different ways engineering teams have approached it in the past. We all know about like ad hoc or waterfall cycle, but some of methodologies, a lot of those involve actually agile software development process. So in Marketer, we mostly follow Scrum or Kanban or a Scrumban. So I'll give a brief overview of it, but I'll not go deep into it because there was a presentation Tech Talk by Judy, like April of this year, where she actually focused on Scrum versus Kanban. So I have put that as a reference in the last slide. So if you want, you can watch that presentation also. What is Agile? Agile is basically like we are quick. We make small iterative changes. We have our products always ready to be shipped. The idea of the Agile development methodology emerged out of it. There were 12 principles. They call it the Agile Manifesto of 12 principles. Those touch on one of those few things. But today, we'll focus on 3 of the Agile processes that are Scrum, Scrumban, and Kanban. In Marketer, different teams follow different Agile methodologies. In Issuing Squad, we are following Kanban. And I'd like to say why Kanban. Next. Yeah. So just to tell why Kanban or why in issuing the, maybe we first look at why not the other ones before we go to Kanban. So the most common one is a Scrum. So Scrum has some particular ceremonies. Scrum is one of the agile implementations, just like extreme programming, test-driven development, Kanban, Scrum, all those come from the agile family of development processes. Scrum is very widely used across the industry because it makes software development, systems development very predictable. Like you have a particular sprint, you know how much you are going to get done in each sprint, so you can plan your quarter or your several months in a particular way. It has lot of things built in Scrum. Very, for example, let's say you do backlog grooming, and then after each sprint is done, you do retrospective to make sure that things went according to your plan. You do sprint planning for the next sprint ahead of time. So those advantages are there in Scrum. And that's why many teams actually, even in Marketer, they use Scrum. They also have a daily or weekly stand-up. Usually Scrum recommends a 15 minutes daily stand-up. As opposed to that, in issuing squad, we started using Kanban, keeping some of the things in mind. So one of the things is that the type of projects that we work with, the type of engineers we have, the number of engineers we have, or the ratio of the project versus Kanban is a better fit. So for example, some of our engineers work in 2 or 3 different projects. So now if it would be Kanban, and if it would be 15 minutes every day stand up, those engineers would have to attend those 15 minutes interview into 3 different projects. The whole week will be lost into the meetings itself. That's just maybe not the strong enough reason, but that's one of the reasons. Another reason is that in Scrum, you have to plan the whole sprint ahead of time. You have to know how much you are going to achieve at the end of the sprint. That means you have to have a very clear work breakdown. You have to understand what is the requirement. You have put it down to a minute details, to a smaller chunk that you know you can finish it within this sprint. And if it is not completely done, this is not done at all. For example, your development done and some part of testing is done, then you are not done. So one of the things we noticed is that our user stories or features, even the smaller chunks, are actually quite big for many projects. And we start a work in one sprint, but we don't finish it up. And the tasks actually, user stories keep moving from sprint. That's not good for the morale of the team. That's another reason. So thinking of all these, we are looking into, okay, what are the alternates we have? Definitely Kanban came into mind because we are using the Jira system. So whenever in Jira you are trying to create a board for tracking, it gives you by default an option to either pick a Scrum board or a Kanban board. So when we are looking into Kanban, the advantage is that it's a continuous flow of work. It's not that you have to finish something in next week or next 2 weeks or in this sprint. Kanban doesn't have the concept of a sprint, which means although we give commitment to our product managers, our team, or our stakeholders that we are going to get these feature done in 2 months, we can actually get done ahead of time, or let's say 2 weeks, get done ahead of time, and we can pick the next user story and start working on it. So in that case, Kanban is a little bit more relaxed on the engineer. So I felt like, considering our team composition, like we felt that Kanban is the right choice for the projects in issuing squad. So that's how we started. Yeah.
You said that one of the reasons you were choosing Kanban over Scrum is that you have engineers in multiple teams.
Projects, yeah, teams, yeah.
But
projects.
I would think that like an engineer can only work, and because of that,
Correct.
you have multiple
Yes.
stand-ups, you have
Yes.
multiple sprint plans,
Correct.
etc.
Right.
But if an engineer is only working at one thing at
Yes.
a time,
Yeah.
then they should only be going to one stand-up a day.
Oh, I see.
Or one sprint planning.
Correct. That's a very good point. Let me rephrase the question. The question is that if the problem is that an engineer is working on 3 projects over a quarter, not over next 2 weeks, So it's quite possible that that engineer in week 1 and 2 is working on one project and can attend only those stand-ups. And then week 3 and 4, the engineer can work on the other team. So if we can manage this precisely, I think this is doable. But in practice, it is very difficult because the teams and the projects are so fluid. We start at some point and then we try to, as the deadline approaches, we speed up a little bit, some new requirements come, and then by default, Agile is a little bit change friendly. You are supposed to be able to accept changes in the middle of the development. So to make it in practice work has been hard. We have been trying this actually in the past, and we saw that the outcome was the tickets were moving from sprint to sprint. Like if you look at one of the old tickets in Jira, you will see maybe 12 sprints, one ticket is moving from one to another. It's not that no work was done in this 12 sprint. It's just that one work was done and then we did not have any bandwidth to test that ticket. So it kept moving sprint to sprint. And then when our test engineer was available, we again picked that ticket and moved it into the next one. But if you look at the sprint list, you will see that as if it gives an impression that we took 12 sprints to finish this ticket when it was a 2-sprint ticket. So it's bad for the morale for the team, but it's manageable. It is not impossible. I guess that's why some other teams still are managing, even if they have engineers working in multiple projects, if they have. But Kanban makes it relatively more easier because in Scrum, if you could not finish a ticket within a sprint, or let's say a higher priority work came in the middle, this whole sprint is actually completely cancelled. One of the theories is that you take a new user story in Scrum means you have to actually cancel the whole Scrum of that 2 weeks, the whole sprint of that 2 weeks, and have to start on the next sprint. You can change the date of the next sprint. You can bring it up, but you have to cancel them. This is the actual theory. People don't do that, I think. But the actual theory is that you have to cancel this sprint. In other sense, Scrum is relatively very rigid on the team and engineer in favor of predictability. You get better predictability because you are very rigid on the process. It's not as rigid as probably other systems, but relative to Kanban, it's a little bit rigid. But I agree that if you can plan it properly for all the engineers, for all the projects, we should be able to manage within Scrum too. It's just that it got a lot easier when we started using Kanban. So we saw that that opportunity, that the stress is a lot less. So the ticket that I will give you an example. Like we'll be showing one example ticket where actually this happened. Yeah, thank you, but very good question. Yeah. So in fact, basically any of the Agile methodologies, one of the things is that as long as you pick a methodology and stick to it for a long period of time, it will give you the fruits, no matter which one you pick. So we usually tune it or optimize it for some type of project like this should work fine. So initially our idea was that we'll use Kanban for some of the projects that we started with, but we don't have to use Kanban for all other projects in Issuing Squad. It will be a call team by team for that particular project. Like within Issuing Squad, we have about 5 teams. So one particular team may decide they want to do Scrum, and that's fine. Another team may want to pick Scrumban, that's fine. So what we started, like about April, we started 3 Kanban boards, and then we had a 4th team we had to span up all on a sudden, and we are discussing, okay, we have a chance right now to not use Kanban. Instead, let's use the Scrum or Scrumban. Is there anyone for that? And the whole team came up with, no, we want Kanban for the new board also. So that also that validates that it's going into the right direction, basically. Okay, so here is a sample Kanban board. I just wanted to quickly show that the basic idea of Kanban is that to do, doing, and done, these 3 steps. We have changed the workflow a little bit that suits our style of work. Like for us, the development and testing, these 2 are very big phases. So that's why we in between added a few more stages, like backlog, to do, in progress, dev complete, QA, verified, and done. In between, there are, in each of those swim lanes, we call it swim lanes. There are multiple states that you can use within that swim lane. For example, QA swim lane has 2 states. ready for QE and QA in progress. But you will see as in this swimlane title as QA. But if you open individual tickets, you will see some of the tickets are ready for QE, some of the tickets are QA in progress. So that way, usually Kanban prefers you to do it is that the topmost priority ticket should be showing under someone's name at the very top. So in other sense, let's say in this particular case, Alex is working on it and this one is in progress. So Alex should not have any confusion to see which one he should start working today. Is it PS7763 or PS7540? Because both are in progress, right? So because the top one is the higher priority, that's why it is showing up earlier. So he should start working on that. This is the basic theory. Of course, in practice, just to give this precise priority, it's a lot of work even for the product manager or others. So team does a little bit of work around, but the basic theory is that you work on the top priority task that is in top of the queue for you. There is another concept called WIP limits or work in progress limits. We are not using it yet because many of our tickets when we start working on, we have a lot of wait time on the network. Let's say we are waiting for a response from Visa, or we are waiting for a response from a MasterCard, those kind of things, or we're waiting on a response from a Gendex ticket before we make progress to those tickets. So a lot of ticket gets stuck in progress status. So if we start implementing WIP limit, we will have a little bit of hard time. But we are thinking and we will be looking for recommendations from you. Maybe you should put a WIP limit of 3 or 5 tasks for someone for each of these swim lanes. So this is something we have been thinking a little bit about. We haven't been enforcing it. Like you can configure the Kanban boards to enforce WIP limits. Right now our WIP limits is I think 20 or something like that, a big number, so that nothing is enforced. These are some of the Kanban boards. These are all of the Kanban boards that issuing squad is using. So you will see these 6 Kanban boards cover approximately 15 to 20 projects. Not all projects are under active development. So the projects that are in active development, let's say card fulfillment, AMC, case management, tokenization, those have their own Kanban board and a weekly stand-up. So in the weekly stand-up, it is something similar to this Scrum's 15-minute daily stand-up, but instead of daily, we are going with weekly stand-up. But that also is a call by the team. So for example, for tokenization, it's a 2 stand-ups per week versus other teams are maintaining 1 stand-up per week. 1 stand-up where only the developer, product manager, and the SDETs are there. But they also have other stand-up where external stakeholders are there. So, but those are not counted as the Kanban board review. You always have it. So outside of these 4, we have a catch-all Kanban board which is issuing that handles everything else that is not those top 4 priority projects that are being meeting every week. So for example, let's say we just finished deployment of bin management phase 1 yesterday. So bin management is being tracked under issuing squad, this Kanban board, not the other ones. Similarly, another one is issuing reporting. We started with the recent changes in the RBI and data analytics structure. Like right now, reporting is built into each squad. So we started getting a lot of reporting related work. So we started tracking those in issuing reporting Kanban board. So the way I will give you one story, but before we go to the story, just the major components that we use in Kanban are actually epic, user story, and task. We don't use the bug, improvement feature, new feature, and requirements ticket types much in Jira, although this is up for grab. If anyone wants to, you are most welcome within our team also. Most of the time, we end up actually using epic and user story more compared to task. But I know some engineers prefer to break down the user story into even smaller tasks and finish those, and that's a very good practice. But we are quite flexible in this area. Like as long as we have a user epic and user stories, even if the engineers are not creating tasks under that, we are okay with that. That's it's mainly the convenience of how you organize your work, each engineer, how they feel like it. We know Epic is a collection of features or user stories, and we know user story is a particularly usable component, piece of work that your client or your customer can use. And task is something that you need to do to assist the user story to put into completion. So maybe you need to finish 5 tasks to make a user story done. So we are using these 3 heavily compared to the other ones. So just to give an example, I pulled up one of the ticket from our case management Kanban board. So this ticket is PF5020. It's the user story is that copy to clipboard widget in cases and chargeback manager. So Nick Petru was the front-end engineer who worked on this ticket, and Femi was the SDET who tested this ticket. So if we look, this ticket will give us an example like what kind of activities are involved in finishing a typical story in one of the Kanban board. So the first thing is that this ticket was born out of the Epic cases fast follow. So that tells us that actually there was a Epic that was created by someone. So the epics are created by the product managers or product owners. The product managers, even before creating the epic, several other things happens basically. So I'll just briefly touch base. So let's say the inception or an ideation phase of a feature that we want to basically integrate case management into Monterey. So let's say that is the initial idea. So the product manager, Bartley, he went and created a requirement document for it after talking to many stakeholders, business stakeholders, other engineers. And then based on that document, a requirement document, a design document has been created. That is the ideal time when not only the developer or engineer is involved, but the estate also gets involved. Everyone reviews, builds that design document together. A test strategy document is also prepared out of that requirements document at this time. So now, are we consistently following it across all the projects? No, not really, but this is the ideal case. And our goal is to get there for all projects, or for all new projects at least, not the existing ones, but any new initiative. We have a requirement document and the design document and the test plan, high-level test plan or test strategy has been created out of that requirement. And both the engineers and SDETs need to be involved in. Front-end engineer, back-end engineer, SDET, and product manager, engineering manager, all of them needs to give input to those. So once that is done, is the epics are created, or while this design is being reviewed, the epics are created by the product manager. There is a session that we miss here, at least in issuing squad, maybe in other squads, other engineers are doing it, which is the backlog grooming with the team. So usually what happens is that the product manager and engineers, SDETs are working so closely, they have a clear idea just by standing in these stand-ups, which epics are a high priority, which user stories are a high priority. So usually I have been seeing that the product manager creates the user stories out of the epic and puts those into backlog. Instead of, let's say, have a 2-hour session book and we all go through all the epics, create the user stories and stuff. For new teams where the engineers haven't worked together well, engineers are new, they don't know each other, they don't work well. My recommendation is that we should have a product backlog session like 1 hour, write down all those user stories and then only think of prioritization. But most of our engineers here have been working for so long with the product managers, they actually don't need time. 5-10 minutes, they talk in the weekly stand-up and they already say, okay, we understand this is the priority. Please create a shell of the user stories and I'm going to fill it up. So what happens is that the product manager goes and creates the shell of the user stories out of the epics. The epic they put in very great detail, including because they have the requirements document already. So it's very easy to write down the epic. The user stories they create to some extent, and then the stories goes into the backlog. So when you are seeing the this is snapshot, you are actually not seeing backlog. In this Kanban board view, you are not seeing any epic because the query we are using is to exclude all the epic and exclude backlog, which means during the weekly stand-up, the product manager or the team or whoever is running that weekly stand-up and going through this Kanban board, as a team, they figure out which Jira tickets should be moved from backlog to do, that first column. So these ones that we are seeing here, these are already that have been pulled from backlog into the to-do. So once it is in the to-do, that means it is assigned to an engineer and it is showing up in that engineer's to-do list. But maybe the engineer is already working on a ticket which is in progress or waiting on a pull request review. So engineer may not be immediately going back to the to-do. But as long as there is a queue of to-do items for the engineer, we are good, because otherwise the engineer will be waiting for the next task maybe. So we usually ensure that at least 2 or 3 tickets are already assigned to the engineer, which is either in to-do or in progress, so that we are keeping them busy. Usually they have a lot more than 2 or 3, but yeah, at least there are some. So for this particular ticket, the product manager created this user story and put it into backlog at 17th June. And by default, it goes to backlog. You have to pull, basically drag it from a backlog to to-do. And then during the stand-up, it got weekly stand-up. It was prioritized, and at 24th July, actually it was, I think the first date is 17th July. Anyway, 24th July, after 1 week, it was moved to do from backlog. And then it was assigned to the engineer while it was moving into the to-do. So the engineer then started working the next day and put it into in progress to show the team that I have started working on it. So the team know that this engineer is working on this ticket. And then the next phase is that you start asking questions in that ticket. Usually the comment. So in this particular ticket, if you quickly have a look at this ticket, let's see if you can view this. So you'll see that this ticket has several conversations. You can either only look at the comments of this ticket. This is just comments, or maybe activities, like what has been done in this ticket in a different order. So the idea is that all the interested parties should be communicating in this ticket. We often, of course, discuss in Slack quickly and get it done. But if there is some major steps, those should be captured in this ticket as a comment, so that in future, we have a history of what kind of activities happened for this ticket. For example, you'll see there are some detailed comments from Nick on this ticket with questions to clarify the requirements. So this is a very good example of how the interaction should happen around the Jira ticket comments. I know we often do it in Slack also, but it's a very nice way if you could capture this in the ticket for future references. And you will see that the business stakeholder, they actually answered the question. Oh, yeah, we understood your question. Here is the answer. Here is how it should be done. So this is just a quick heads up. We can go back to the. Yeah, sure.
So in Scrum, right, you normally have the improving steps, and part of that is like write the stories refined enough.
Yeah, correct.
Go into the sprint, right? So you
Right.
have to waste time.
Yeah.
And not delivering anything. That's
So-
great. How is that not observed?
In Kanban. So
Yeah.
let me see if I understood your question. In Scrum, the user stories are detailed enough. You have full fine-grained what you want to do.
Yeah.
Is that the case for Kanban also or not? Yes. So in fact, many of the practices of Kanban are from Agile principles, right? Many of those things are same. Like Kanban doesn't have what is that sprint concept, right? But in general, how you handle the user story, those things are more or less standard practice. So you are supposed to have in the user story detail enough what you want to do, but maybe you are not talking about the timeline. So for the timeline, we'll talk about it. We are using story points. How much time we need, we time box a user story. But apart from that, the user story usually is identical if you are using in Scrum or Kanban. It should be same. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, to come back to this.
Yeah, sure.
What are we doing in terms of Kanban? No, the example you're watching.
Oh, okay, that one.
Like, what are we doing in terms of like, we have this right here?
Yes,
I guess
right. So usually some of the tickets you will see we have acceptance criteria. In some of the tickets we don't have. So initially we thought we started with very less. Actually, only the description is filled up, and then we quickly work on it, So we didn't want to go from there to do everything, every field properly updated, acceptance criteria, fully written down. That's the ideal condition. We are working towards that. Some of the tickets actually have acceptance criteria written, but many of the tickets are not. And I think this is, as a team, one of the scope for our improvement. In fact, even when Dilesh joined recently, the product manager, he also brought up is that I don't see acceptance criteria in any of your tickets. Not any, most of your tickets. What is going on? You guys don't need any acceptance criteria? Like, no, we are getting there slowly. But yes, that's a very good recommendation. This is one of the things. There are several things we can improve as a team. This is one of those things. So good call out. Okay. Thank you. So, so for this particular ticket, once it is in progress, the engineer worked on it, and then the engineer gave a story point of 3. So we can probably talk a little bit about story point here. So the way we are using story point, so let me quickly actually go here, is that we are using Fibonacci series for story pointing. So usually story pointing can be done in many ways. There are 2 primary ways people do it. One is ideal hour, and another is the man day. You can say like how many engineer day you need to finish a story. Or some people do like what should be the ideal number of hours. So the thing we thought, most of the teams projects, not only Marketer, even outside also use Fibonacci series for story points. One of the advantage of this is that if you have a task that is small enough, you are usually very good at estimating how much time you need to finish it. As the task starts getting bigger, you are more off from your target. It's like you can think of a bow and arrow. Like if your target is closer, you can hit the target very accurately. The further the target goes behind, your arrow will hit basically make misses a lot more than if you have it very closer. Similar to that, if a task is a 1-week task, probably you can pretty accurately guess at a 10-20% error rate that this much time I need. But when your task is a 3-week task, probably you will say I will be done in 3 weeks and you will actually get done in 6 weeks. The variance goes very high. So that's why we are using story point to make sure that our user stories, we have broken down to smaller chunks enough that these are not big numbers. So the Fibonacci series is that 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. So 1 usually here means is that 1 engineer, 1 day of work. Does it mean 1 day means 8 hours? No. 1 day means an engineer does a lot of work other than coding in a day, including attending this tech talk session, right? Or maybe applying for a PTO, maybe having a one-on-one with manager, maybe writing a documentation that is not related to his team's current project. But whatever an engineer does in a day, overall, end of the day, that is like 1 day of work. Out of that 1 day of work, maybe 50% or 60% work goes on actual coding or actual testing or whatever it is. That is fine. We will still consider it as 1 day of work. So 1 means 1 engineer, 1 day of work. Now, if 2 engineers are working for 1 day, the same day, then it's a 2 story point. Or if 1 engineer is working for 2 days, it is 2 story point. So just like that, yeah, 1 to 3 is fine, but 5 is 1 week. Now, if someone takes 4 days, of course it is 5. So you basically instead of floating, you seal the number. 4 will become 5. Similarly, if someone works for 6, it is 8, and 8 means 2 weeks. 13 means 4 weeks, and 21 means 2 months. 13 is actually like 1 month, 21 is 2 months, or 4 weeks. 5 is 1 week, 8 is 2 weeks, 13 is 4 weeks, and 21 is 8 weeks. We should not have any user story that goes up to 13 or 21, maybe exceptional cases. That's something that team needs to call. It's very hard to believe that we could not break down something below 1 month of work. But usually, like we prefer to keep it within 5. Often it goes into 8 because it's not only development work, it's also test work built into it. Development and testing both together is the story point. So now if you look at the example here, is that initially the engineer gave this ticket a story point of 3, which means I have to assume that probably Nick thought that it's a couple of days of work for me, and maybe Femi needs one more day, then we'll be done with this user story. So with that in mind, he put as 3. So anyway, then the engineer started working on it, and at 27th July, you will see approximately a couple of days he was done, created a, yeah, right.
So like in Scrum, you have sprints, right? And over a number of sprints, you get X amount of work done.
Right.
And that like is your predictability.
Correct.
For how does that work with Kanban?
Yeah, in Kanban, we are not shooting for that predictability to start with, so which means it's a flow of work.
So then what's the point of estimating?
Oh, the estimating is mainly to make sure that the actual epic or the user story has been broken down to a smaller chunk that is manageable.
But you're estimating at the very end.
No, at the beginning. So as soon as the engineer got it, engineer was in to do, right? So then he estimated and put it into in progress. But one of the idea is to estimate during backlog grooming session. You remember we are not doing the backlog grooming session to start with. Right. So the engineer, when they pick the story, is the time when they are estimating the story, and then they keep updating it, which means we are not looking forward to that at what date, what time this project will be where. If you really need that, you should be following Scrum.
But like here for this one, you're saying you're making sure that the ticket is small enough that the work can be done in a reasonable amount of time.
Correct.
But the ticket's been moved into progress.
Yeah.
And then estimated.
Oh no,
I would think that it would be estimated before being moved into progress.
These 2 steps were done simultaneously at the same time when it was being made into progress. So maybe I could put that step earlier, or both combined into one step.
So you just use story points as a way to make sure that the tickets are small enough.
Correct. Yes. Okay. Right. Because what will happen? Let's say the engineer estimated it 13, like 1 month. So in that weekly stand-up, that's why all the rest of the team members are there. Engineering manager is also there. So whenever we see a big number, we start asking the question, why is it so big? What happened with this user story? You started working on it and you think it will take 2 months. Why? Let's break it down to smaller chunks and then finish that smaller chunks first. That's the visibility into that in this story point that gives. But it's really not to tell the product manager that I will be done by October 15th. So if we have projects like this, for example, let's say we are going with MasterCard certification for Instacart in Canada, and there we actually need to give deadlines, versus the other projects we are mainly committing for a quarter. Like let's say Q4 commitment is this. We don't have a commitment that November 3rd we have to have this ready. We know by December 31 we have to have this ready. So we have a leeway between the projects where we spend our energy more fast and then where later. That's why Kanban works for those. But if you have like MasterCard certification, Instacart, Scrum is a better tool for that kind of work. That's why Scrum is also so popular, right? Because if you think of from the top management or leadership, probably it gives them a lot more leverage. Scrum gives them a lot more leverage because it's precise predictability Scrum gives. Compared to that Kanban, you'll probably get done even ahead of time or maybe a little bit later because you are picking work as it is coming. So we, like product managers, engineering managers, within this Kanban flow, our responsibility is to figure out, we know the team's velocity at a high level. Based on that, to figure out the timeline we have committed for Q4, is this going to work or not? If not, we make it visible ahead of time. The engineer doesn't have to think about this because we are also present in that stand-up. We have a pretty good idea that, hey, this is not going in the pace that we can meet December 15. Let's have a contingency plan. But our idea is that let's take that headache out of the engineer's head and put that headache into product manager or engineering manager's head. So engineers can focus on finished ticket one after another, like that.
But then here he's estimating it, like say he comes back and it's like a 13.
Yeah, so at that time, of course.
Then it's like what does Nick do at this point?
Yeah, so at this
Go
point,
back to the product manager. If the product manager is busy, then
oh no, there is no way, because you're working in a close knit. Of course, you have a weekly stand-up, but anytime something like this is there, the engineer is supposed to reach out to the product manager, engineering manager, or the test engineer, SDETs immediately. You cannot wait like, okay, next week we have weekly sync up, that time we will update. Usually the engineers here are pretty good at that.
Yeah.
They have a very good hold on how much time it will take, and if they see that the expectation is a lot higher than like what they are initially estimating, they immediately contact. That is a, you can say, team level trust that you build ahead of time. If you don't have that, this estimate is a smaller problem. We have a bigger problem to address first. So we have that trust built between the team members ahead of time. So they will be communicating it. Plus we have that Slack channel. That's why even anything around a ticket, a little bit detail or question, we immediately ask it. We are relying on that basically. But if that is absent,
in the ticket you had with him, he was asking the stakeholder directly.
Correct. Yes.
For clarification.
Yes.
So it seems like there's some kind of breakdown where it's like the engineers ends up picking up some of the work that maybe the product manager could have done ahead of time.
Oh, no, the product manager already clarified after talking it, but when engineer actually goes into the coding, there are more things that they discover. Maybe the product manager could do that, but then in Agile, we don't focus too much on documentation or those kind of things, like preparing everything ahead of time. It should be iterative. So we are expecting that it's like onions, right? Layer after layer. The product manager has taken out the first layer and given a high level that this is the requirement. Now, when the engineer goes, they will take the next layer out. Some new questions will come, and then engineer will be done. When the SDET starts speaking, they may come up with even newer questions, and then and we are supposed to adjust them. If that means the user story point became from 3 to 8, it is okay. We are okay with that basically. So now you can say, then what happens to your commitment? Of course, that's where like the team's experience working together, those things come into play. If we see more of this happening, then we'll probably revisit the plan. Is that maybe this is for this kind of project, this is probably not the right approach. That's why we don't have to use Kanban always. Maybe for those projects, Scrum is a better fit. Yeah. So anyway, we saw that after a couple of days, Nick created the pull request for review. And then once the pull request was approved, it moves to ready for QE. But then one thing happened is that our test engineer at that time was very busy with 2 other high priority projects, never got time to test it for a long time. So the ticket was waiting there. We use a yellow stick concept, like in Kanban board, if you right click on a ticket, you can say add a flag, it becomes yellow visible that it is blocked. Because right now the SDET is busy with other projects, which is well communicated within the team. And if that is not acceptable, then engineering manager should be pulling some other SDET to help out with this ticket basically. So this happened to this ticket. This ticket had to wait because the SDET was busy with some other high priority task. Once that was done, then the testing again resumed on 14th October, and it was ready to merge, and it was released just last week. So this is the high level how a user story goes from inception to deployment, basically close. Of course, then there are other ceremonies like you have release notes and all those, but I think those are less of our focus. We already talked about the story point, but here is a page, Google site, where we have what development methodology we follow. This link, if you go there, including how we create the ticket, how we evaluate, all those things, or most of the things that I have been talking here have been documented there in that methodology phase. So I think that's more or less what I wanted to talk about. Let's have some question and answer, but before that, I want to acknowledge people, different engineers, like Issuing Squad members started using it, I think, since we created the Kanban boards about early April or mid-April. So far, these are going good, and in fact, I look forward to feedback if some of the engineers want to, for 1 or 2 projects, they want to move to Scrumban or Scrum. The Scrumban's idea is that Scrumban is a combination of Scrum and Kanban in that it also has the 2 weeks sprint. It has the flexibility of the Kanban, but it also has that fixed 2 or 3 week or 4 week sprint, whatever you pick, like in Scrum. So it is a little bit more ceremonious, more like Scrum instead of Kanban. But I think so far we are only using either Scrum or Kanban here. So if some engineers want to actually use Scrum, and we are very open, we can have discussions like within issuing projects also. So far the feedback is that engineers are feeling comfortable with the Kanban. So it's working. So let's make it a little better. We know that there are places to make improvements, like we should be adding more comments into the ticket, like updating the history of the ticket, so that anytime when someone looks back to an old ticket, knows exactly what is going on in that ticket. Or let's say updating the acceptance criteria that Mark or Divish brought out. Those are areas where we can improve. Judy gave a speech, as I was telling, so thanks to Judy. This helps us understand actually what we should use, the Scrum or Kanban. Although we started using Kanban before that, but that actually your presentation validated us is that for our kind of project, that was the right choice. And of course, Nick is the owner of this ticket that I was using as an example. So thank you, Nick. Yeah. We can probably now use some time for question and answer. Yes, Mark. Oh, estimation part? Yeah.
So you give the example of 3 there.
Right.
How does that work in terms of, like, so obviously it's Scrum, like, you know, it's a non, it doesn't have a specific measurement, right? Except that you constantly correct and see how much did you deliver against.
Correct.
How much did you deliver in a given sprint?
Yeah.
Like, with everything sort of like all sort of constant delivery.
Yeah.
Like, how do you sort of track that? Like,
how are we doing, or what is our pace compared to what we thought initially, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. You just quickly get off track. The good thing about Scrum, like, you can either fix your estimation or you can change your capacity, right? But eventually you'll get more predictable.
Yeah. So some of the things we are doing, like for example, let's say take this example. The retrospectives. Usually we do quarterly retrospectives for projects, like how this went, or after a major completion of a project. Like for example, let's say for BIM management, we didn't do the retrospective for Q3. Instead, we just finished deployment yesterday. We'll have a retrospective next week. But the idea is that we should have quarterly retrospective or a major milestone retrospective. That's the retrospective idea. We can formalize it even more. But one thing I have experienced is that usually not all engineers like too much processes. And I actually talked in the managers meeting also. We can introduce a lot of these things, but I'm more interested about the buy-ins. One thing is that you can push, hey, you have to do it. Those I have seen over time doesn't work very well. What works well is that organically engineers picking those best practices one after another. So what I felt is that if I start from the very beginning with a lot of processes, nothing is going to work. So instead, we are introducing slowly one after another. For example, let's say one first major change we made when we created the Kanban board is that earlier we had the developer Jira ticket and the test engineer Jira ticket separately. So that was something that was very important, and we were adamant that no, it has to be the same ticket because it forces the developer and the SDA to talk together, work together, because it's the same ticket. Versus if they are separate tickets, they can work in parallel with less interaction. So let's say this is one idea. Another one was that at least give some user story points. It doesn't have to be accurate. So we start measuring how off we are from how much it takes. So for now, it is really user story points. We can go further, but I'm thinking that maybe we should do step by step, organically, instead of like all at once. Let's try to do the best, because it will be too much process heavy otherwise. Yeah, Femi?
How do you see us?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you see us?
Right. So one of the idea is that, like when we are initially estimating a ticket, if you could write it down in the comment, that this is the one. And then by the time we finish the ticket, we close, we know exactly we have an updated user story point, right? How much it took. And that gap will tell us actually how off we are in general. We can get some data out of it. That will be a little bit of work, but I think we can manage it. But that's one way of trying to understand how off we are from our initial estimation. There is another matrix that earlier Dave White used to send. Now who's sending? Is it Judy? I got another one, or is it Heidi? Someone else is sending. Is that how much of our Scrum board tickets or Kanban board tickets are in each of these states, like in the to-do state, how long they are on average for each team. For example, let's say for issuing case management in July, there were on an average the tickets in progress one was, let's say, 12 days. That's one data. So are we improving on it? Is the July data, was the June data 17 days and July we became 12 days? We made some improvement. That's one way of we can see that whether we are making improvement or not. So Dave White used to collect a lot of these data, and he was telling just before leaving is that he's trained. He has some Python script that he runs on the Kanban boards or those Jira databases. So he says that he's seeing the trend is going very positive compared to when he started for issuing squad projects. So that was his feedback. So it looks like we are making improvement, but we have a lot of scope for making improvement. For example, if you randomly pick some of the tickets, you'll be able to see, are we filling up what is the fixed version, or what's the story point correctly? Are we adding enough comments in the ticket? So those gives offline access to the other. Let's say the engineering manager and SDT has a pretty good idea what they're working on, but there are other members in the team also. It gives them a pretty good idea what activities is happening on that project if you fill those or update those ticket properties properly. Yeah, so that's let's keep gathering the feedbacks from others where else we can improve. We know we can improve in many areas, but we'll have to also prioritize so that we sequentially enroll it. Like, okay, let's start on just acceptance criteria from now. Let's have a standard for all the tickets. Once we are done with it, let's work on, let's say, retrospective. Every month a retrospective or every quarter a retrospective. So we can get there. Like that. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
What was improving?
The improvement was the tickets in a particular state. They were stuck. Like, for example, let's say in June, an average ticket in case management was stuck in progress for 17 days. The next month, when the report was generated, an average ticket in case management was stuck for 12 days, like 5 days of improvement. So we must have done something better in this 1 month that we improved on it.
What do you think that is?
The in progress, it is simply because we have too many projects and we have shared engineers. So although a ticket is in progress, an engineer actually stops working on it because there is a high priority ask in another one, finishes it on it, and then comes back to the ticket. During that time, this ticket is hanging in that Kanban board.
How did Kanban help improve that?
Oh, how did Kanban help improve that? I think Kanban helped improve in the morale of the team. So what I saw is that earlier, when it was a Scrum, and all the tickets have 5, 10, 12 weeks, sprint after sprint, it is just moving. You know, the sprint list gets so bigger, it's like, looking at it is like, it's morally down. So now that we don't have anything about by next Friday, I have to finish that ticket because it's a 2 weeks. So the engineers are less stressed theoretically. I don't know, practically, the engineers have to tell us. I have got some feedback from some of the engineers that they feel a lot less stress in the head that I have to finish it by day after tomorrow. Now you can say maybe from product manager's point of view that this stress is a positive one. And so we can have debate around it, but I have seen so far this work better for our projects, so I'm willing to continue it. But yeah, so there are pros and cons for both of these.
Is there any fear that this like added flexibility is just hiding some of the issues that might have come up in a more rigid squad?
In a more rigid squad?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any sign of that yet. Like most of the things, for example, let's say a project that we could not meet a deadline. None of those happened because we did not do story pointing correctly. We did not have the requirements correctly. All those happened mostly for other higher priority came in between. So as of now, I don't have any discovery like that, but maybe it's an experience other people can share with me, not within the projects. Most of the projects, we were, for example, let's say we are stuck on MasterCard for one particular area for like 1.5 months. How do you estimate it ahead of time? There is no way. So it's just a network. I had to go to Brian Kelly. I remember I and Bartley went to Brian Kelly that you got to do something about it. How many months will be waiting? I have given an estimate that even if I multiply by 10, it will be an incorrect estimate. So this is just one example I'm saying. So the troubles that we have faced was not because the engineer has neglected or they could not accurately estimate. It's just the engineer did not have enough data until they started working deep inside it, like what type of trouble is going to come up, which if you, theoretically we can say if you would have backlog grooming, maybe some of those would come out, and I agree with that, but many of those would really not come out until you start working on it. The type of project is very like it's a greenfield. The type of project we work in issuing, like the one problem can be solved in 5 different ways. So instead of spending time on planning how I am going to solve it, often it's very good for the engineers that they actually start solving it and then figure out that, oh, the initial plan I thought maybe we need an adjustment. Then they talk with them. For sometimes in one of the ticket, it happened that I want to do it, move it to, let's say, Aurora or RDS, this database, and then do it. But that will add 1 month of more work. And we are like, no, okay, let's go with whatever we have right now, instead of doing it the very nice ideal way. And then we iterate over it, those kind of things. So every fix that we do an ideal way, we will definitely have a tax in some other way. There will be a trade-off. So far, I have been seeing the trade-off is in our favor. Yeah. So any other question or comment or observation? All right then, so this is just a start of a conversation. Let's put it this way: software development lifecycle or Agile or Kanban is a big deal. So many projects are going on. Let's consider it we are just starting a discussion, and we can continue this discussion not only in Tech Talks, but in our Slack channel. Anytime we have the hash team issuing channel, if you have some ideas or you observe something, hey, you have a dependency broken, for example, let's say, just post in that Slack channel and we can generate a conversation out of it on how we could address it better. Basically, maybe we have something basic missing in our SDLC that we should have been able to address it ahead of time, right? So we can only get better over time together. So please participate, keep giving feedback. There is no Yep, definitely.
For a clarification, so in that step over here, and I apologize, I'm walking really late.
Yeah, no, sure.
The user story point is created in 3 required.
Correct.
We talked about that.
Oh, so what happened is initially when the ticket, the engineer picked, looking at the ticket comment, my assumption is that the engineer thought that it's a couple of days of my work and another day of testing work. So about 3. So the pointer was estimated 3. But then once the development is done, it was transferred to the SDATE. The ticket was assigned to the SDATE's name. SDATE looked into it and figured out, no, it's not a 1 day of work. Actually, it's, for me, it's a couple of days of work. So a couple of days makes it, let's say, already the engineer took 2 days and the SDATE needs to write automation around it, right? So another 2 days, 4. So the SDATE updated it to 5 because yes, basically we seal instead of floor. So 4 becomes 5. That's how it happens. Which means initially the feeling that the front-end engineer had is that it's a 1 day of work. Ideally, it should be they talk to one SDATE and get an estimate, then together they make it 3. But it's not always that same SDATE will be testing. Maybe someone else will be testing. They come out and they say, no, it's a 2 days of work. Or by the time the task has been done, there is a more clear idea which areas need to be tested. So the number, basically point needs to be next. Yeah. We are pretty flexible on this area. as long as the number doesn't start showing very big from the beginning, which means we have a scope for breaking it down further. Other than the breaking down part, these story point numbers, no one else we are not tracking, we are not generating reports or statistics out of it. It's mainly like a guideline for the team that, okay, this is a big story, this is a small story. So let's start the small story first, get it done, then go to the big story. Yeah. Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, we'll continue the conversation.